All right. So, um, getting into a network can be like trying to get into like the most exclusive club in town, right?
The best parties?
Exactly. And Kerberos is that tough bouncer you got to get past.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Kerberos, it's a network authentication protocol.
Okay, so it's making sure you're really you and you belong there.
Exactly, and that you have permission to access certain resources.
Files, applications, that sort of thing.
And for our cybersecurity students listening.
Future defenders.
Exactly. This is essential stuff, Kerberos. I mean,
I got to know it inside and out.
both for protecting systems, A&D for thinking like someone trying to break in.
Which is why we're doing this deep dive.
Absolutely.
We've got some super cool sources.
Let's see. We have some technical notes on hacking Kerberos.
Oh, this is going to be good.
And even some excerpts from cybersecurity training materials.
Oh, wow. And they're in Spanish.
Yeah, in Spanish. So it seems that there's a global interest in learning these skills.
Absolutely. Okay. And we've even got a few snippets of code.
Yeah, little mysterious snippets.
Very cryptic looking.
Yeah, we'll get to those later.
So let's start with the basics. How does Kerberos actually work? I mean, in like the simplest terms.
Sure. So at its core, Kerberos uses these things called tickets to grant access.
Tickets, like to a concert.
Kind of. It's like a digital badge, a passport, it proves your identity.
Okay, so it's more than just passwords then.
Yeah, passwords are part of that initial authentication.
To get the ticket.
Exactly. Once you're verified, you get this thing called a ticket granting ticket or a TGT.
From the Key Distribution Center?
Yes, the KDC.
Sounds important.
Oh, it's like the central authority, the vault that stores all the keys and credentials for the network.
So when I, as a user, want to access something,
a server, an application, anything like that,
I show my TGT to the KDC.
Yes, and you request a service ticket for that specific resource.
Oh, so two types of tickets.
That's right. A TGT to prove you're a legitimate user, and then service tickets for each thing you want to access.
And these tickets, they expire, right?
Yes, they're time-limited and encrypted, which makes them much more secure than just relying on passwords alone.
Oh, that could make sense. But we didn't gather all this material just to talk about how secure Kerberos is.
Right.
There's got to be ways to break in.
Of course, vulnerabilities exist, and attackers are constantly looking for ways to exploit them.
So what do we need to watch out for?
Well, one technique you aspiring security pros should be aware of is called ASREP roasting.
ASREP roasting. Okay, that sounds kind of delicious, but also dangerous.
It is. It targets a weakness in the initial authentication process.
I'm intrigued. Break it down for me. What's ASREP stand for?
So it refers to the messages going back and forth between the user and the KDC during authentication. ASREQ is the user's initial request for a ticket.
Okay.
And ASREP is the reply from the KDC.
So it's like that initial, hello, are you who you say you are step.
Exactly. And roasting comes into play when attackers go after users who haven't set up something called pre-authentication.
Pre-authentication. Okay, hold on. We need to define that for our listeners.
Sure. So it's like an extra layer of security.
Like a secret password on top of your password.
You could think of it that way.
Yeah.
So before the KDC even issues a TGT,
Got to prove yourself.
you got to prove your identity first.
Wow.
It's like a secret knock before you can enter the vault.
Okay.
Without that pre-authentication, attackers can impersonate users and send out these ASREQs.
On their behalf.
Pretending to be them.
Sneaky.
And here's the kicker. They can actually get a valid response back from the KDC.
Really? The ASREP? But why would the KDC respond to a fake request?
Well, because that ASREP has a part of the message that's encrypted with the user's key, and that key, it comes from their password.
Ah, so that's what the attackers are after.
Exactly. They take that encrypted part and try to crack the password offline without setting off any alarms on the network.
So like they're stealing a piece of the puzzle.
Yes, and then trying to figure out the rest later on their own time.
And they can use all sorts of tools and tricks because they're doing it offline.
Exactly, without the risk of being detected.
Clever, but devious. What kind of tools are we talking about?
Well, our sources mention a couple of interesting ones.
Hit me with them.
There's GetNPUsers.py. It's a script.
Okay.
Helps attackers find users who haven't enabled pre-authentication.
So they're looking for the easy targets.
Yeah, kind of scanning for unlocked doors.
I got it.
And then once they've found a vulnerable user, they can use something like Kerbrute to brute force the password.
Kerbrute. Okay, that sounds ominous. What does it actually do?
Well, it's designed to crack Kerberos passwords specifically.
Ah, so it's targeting Kerberos.
Yes. It basically sends tons of ASREQs to the KDC.
Each one with a different password guess.
That's right, until it hits the right one.
So trial and error, but automated.
And with enough computer power, it can be very effective.
especially if someone has a weak password.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm starting to see how this ASREP roasting attack works, but I'm a visual learner. Can we, like, paint a picture of what this looks like in action?
Sure, let's say an attacker wants to get into a company's network. They start by running this GetNPUsers.py script.
Looking for those users without pre-authentication.
Casing the joint, looking for weaknesses.
Okay.
Then, once they've found their target, they use Kerbrute to send a barrage of these ASREQs to the KDC.
Each one pretending to be that user, but with different password guesses.
Right.
Hammering away at the KDC.
And because pre-authentication is off,
The KDC is none the wiser.
the KDC responds with those ASREPs, each one with that little piece of encrypted information the attacker needs.
Which they then take and try to crack offline.
If they succeed, they can get that user's TGT.
Their golden ticket.
Exactly, full access to the network.
That's scary stuff. And if they're careful, they can do all this without being detected.
That's the real danger.
This is why this deep dive is so important. All you cybersecurity students out there gotta know what to look for.
You have to be able to protect your systems from these kinds of threats.
Well, this has definitely opened my eyes. And we've only just scratched the surface of Kerberos security.
We have a lot more to explore.
Stay tuned for part 2.
We'll dig even deeper into Kerberos and look at some other attack strategies and...
Those mysterious code snippets.
You got it. Welcome back to our Kerberos deep dive. Are you ready for more?
Oh, I'm definitely ready. Last time we talked about ASREP roasting.
Right.
Which is already pretty sneaky, but I have a feeling that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Kerberos vulnerabilities.
You're right. There are a lot of other ways attackers can try to exploit Kerberos.
Okay, now you've got me really curious. What else should we be on the lookout for?
Well, let's take a look at our Spanish source, Kerberos.pdf. It talks about some really interesting attacks.
Oh, yeah, the Spanish cybersecurity training materials.
Exactly. And these are especially relevant for you future security analysts.
Laid on me.
One attack you should definitely know about is the golden ticket attack.
Golden ticket. Okay, that sounds serious. What makes it so powerful?
Well, remember how we talked about the Key Distribution Center? The KDC.
Yeah, the one that holds all the keys.
It's like the ultimate authority in a Kerberos system.
Right, like Fort Knox for network security.
Exactly. Well, a golden ticket is basically a forged TGT.
The ticket granting ticket.
But it's created using the KDC's master key.
Oh, wow. So they're forwarding a ticket with the master key.
It's the Kerberos TGT.
Okay, Kerberos TGT, got it. And if an attacker gets their hands on that key, they can basically create any ticket they want.
That's right. It's like having a master key that can open any door in the building.
That's a pretty scary thought.
It is. With a golden ticket, an attacker can impersonate any user access any resource.
And they can stay on the network for a long time undetected.
Exactly. It's not just about getting in, it's about staying in.
Yikes. Talk about a nightmare scenario.
That's why protecting that Kerberos TGT is so important.
I'm starting to understand.
If the KDC itself is compromised, the whole system is vulnerable.
Okay, golden ticket check. What other ticket attacks should we be aware of?
Well, there's also the silver ticket attack.
Silver ticket.
It's kind of like a smaller version of the golden ticket.
Okay, how so?
Instead of going after the Kerberos key, they target a specific service.
So they're not trying to take over the entire network?
Not the whole kingdom, just a specific castle.
Got it.
They forge a service ticket, not a TGT.
Okay.
They still need the service account password, but they don't need that master Kerberos TGT.
So it's more targeted, but also harder to detect because they're just blending in with regular traffic.
Exactly. Security teams might not even notice anything unusual.
Sneaky, sneaky. Okay. So we got golden tickets, silver tickets.
Yeah.
Are there any other precious metal attacks out there? Platinum ticket, maybe?
Well, there is one more mentioned in the source, the skeleton key attack.
Skeleton key. Okay, that sounds ominous.
This one's a bit different. It doesn't actually involve forging tickets at all.
Wait, what? I thought Kerberos was all about tickets.
It is, but with the skeleton key attack, they inject malicious code into the domain controller.
The domain controller, the one that houses the KDC? So they're tampering with the heart of the Kerberos system.
Exactly. And this code lets them create a backdoor account.
A backdoor account.
With a master password that can bypass Kerberos authentication completely.
So even with a perfectly secure Kerberos setup, there's still a way in.
That's the problem. And because the code is running on the domain controller itself, it's really hard to detect.
That's like a ghost in the machine.
Very hard to find.
This is why understanding these attacks is so important for cybersecurity students. These are real threats.
Absolutely. And they can compromise entire networks.
Okay, so we've got golden tickets, silver tickets, skeleton keys, a whole arsenal of Kerberos attacks. But before we get too overwhelmed, Are there any practical steps we can take to protect ourselves?
Of course, awareness is key, and following security best practices.
Like what kind of best practices?
Regularly patching your systems, making sure everyone has strong passwords, using multi-factor authentication, these all help.
So it's about being proactive.
Yes, and
Yeah.
having layers of defense.
Not just relying on Kerberos alone.
Right. Combine it with other security measures like good monitoring and intrusion detection systems.
To create a really strong security posture.
Exactly.
That makes sense, and I think it highlights why we're doing this deep dive.
Absolutely.
You need to know what to look for to protect yourself.
And that brings us back to those mysterious code snippets we mentioned earlier.
Oh, yeah, those.
Maybe they hold clues to even more advanced attacks.
Or maybe even some new defense strategies.
It's possible we'll have to investigate further.
Okay, well, I'm excited to dive into those, but I think that's a good place to stop for now.
Sounds good.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have from basic tickets to golden tickets and everything in between.
What's next on our Kerberos journey?
Well, next time we'll take a closer look at those code snippets and we'll uncover a fascinating connection to the overpass-the-hash technique.
Overpass-the-Hash. That sounds intriguing.
It is. We'll see how it all ties together.
Can't wait. Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll unlock the secrets hidden within those code snippets. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our Kerberos deep dive, and I'm ready to tackle those mysterious code snippets.
Excellent. I knew you wouldn't back down from a challenge.
So where do we even begin with these? This seems so random.
Well, those Spanish cybersecurity training materials we talked about might hold a clue.
Okay, remind me what was so interesting about those.
One of them, M5 Collaborative at Overpass-the-Hash.pdf, mentioned this project focused on Overpass-the-Hash.
Overpass-the-Hash, right? That's how attackers bypass password authentication, right?
Exactly. They get into a system without actually knowing the password.
And the fact that they're teaching this in Spain means it's a pretty big deal, right?
It suggests that this is a significant threat globally.
But how does this all connect back to Kerberos? I thought Kerberos was supposed to be super secure.
It is, but even the best systems have weaknesses.
So where's the weakness with Kerberos?
Well, with Overpass-the-Hash, attackers take advantage of the fact that Kerberos uses password hashes.
Okay, back up for a sec. What's a hash in this context?
Imagine it like a one-way transformation of your password.
Okay.
Instead of storing the actual password, the system stores this unique string of characters, the hash.
Created from the password.
Right, using a special algorithm, and you can't reverse it to get the original password.
So it's like a fingerprint of the password, but you can't get the password from the fingerprint.
Exactly. Now, in Kerberos, your password hash is used to create the keys for those TGTs.
The ticket, granting tickets.
Create your network ID badge.
Okay.
But with Overpass-the-Hash, the attacker doesn't need to know your actual password.
They just need the hash.
They just need a valid hash of your password, and they can use that to create their own TGT.
So they're forging a ticket with a stolen fingerprint.
Precisely, and it shows that Kerberos security isn't just about protecting passwords.
It's also about protecting those password hashes.
Exactly.
So how do we protect those hashes?
One way is to limit the lifetime of TGTs.
Oh, so if they expire quickly, even if an attacker gets one, they can't use it for long.
That's right, it limits their window of opportunity.
Smart. And what else?
Strong logging and monitoring is crucial.
So keeping track of who's doing what on the network.
Exactly. If you can spot suspicious activity quickly, you might catch an Overpass-the-Hash attack in progress.
Like having security cameras everywhere.
And of course, multi-factor authentication is always a good idea.
That extra layer of security.
Makes it much harder for attackers to impersonate users, even if they have a stolen hash.
So layers of security are key. Don't just rely on Kerberos alone.
Combine it with other safeguards to make a truly resilient system.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, so now that we understand Overpass-the-Hash, let's look at those code snippets again. Anything stand out to you?
Well, some of them seem to be manipulating hash values.
Could that be related to an Overpass-the-Hash attack?
It's definitely possible. Remember, attackers need a valid hash for this attack to work.
Right.
These snippets could be part of a tool designed to extract or manipulate those hashes.
Like digital lockpicks for cybercriminals.
It's a good way to think about it, and it shows that even seemingly small bits of code can have a huge impact on security.
I'm definitely seeing those snippets differently. Now they're not just random bits of text anymore.
They could be the building blocks of a serious attack.
So cybersecurity professionals need to understand not just the security systems, but the code itself.
You have to know how the code can be manipulated.
Like learning the language of the enemy.
Exactly.
Well, this has been an incredible journey. I feel like we've gone from Kerberos beginners to almost experts,
We've covered a lot of ground.
from the basics to some really advanced stuff.
And it all highlights the importance of continuous learning in cybersecurity.
Always be learning, always be questioning.
The threats are constantly evolving.
So to all you future cybersecurity pros out there, never stop learning.
And never underestimate the importance of understanding these fundamental concepts.
The future of cybersecurity is in your hands.
Make the digital world a safer place.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us for this Kerberos deep dive.
It is my pleasure.
Until next time, stay curious and stay secure.